Hi, I'm Dr. Jeffrey LeBenger. At Summit Medical Group, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect their lives. That's why we're very proud to support important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Summit Medical Group, a physician-owned multi-specialty medical practice serving northern and central New Jersey in 70 locations. Rowan University, educating New Jersey leaders, partnering with New Jersey businesses, transforming New Jersey's future. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. The law firm of Gibbons, P.C., TD Bank, Suez, water solutions to meet tomorrow's environmental challenges, and by Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is a program where you meet the most interesting people who are doing the most important things. It's on camera right now. He is Brigadier General Alfred Abramson, commanding general of an interesting place called Picatinny Arsenal, located
in Dover, New Jersey.
You guys do amazing stuff. What is it?
We do fantastic stuff. Picatinny, really, I call it the center of excellence for lethality, right? So we're in the military, and I wear an Army uniform, but not only the center of excellence for lethality for the Army, but really the center of excellence for all services, the Department of Defense Services. So we have Navy folks there, we have Marine folks there, and we do the munitions. When I talk about munitions, talk about guns and ammunition that go out to our war fighters. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine folks receive the munitions that we manage at Picatinny Arsenal.
It is being argued by many who know more about war than I do that wars are being fought so differently, largely because of technology.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about it.
So
and this connection to Picatinny.
Sure. So technology really is moving out faster. And so what we have to do in the Department of Defense is our ability to keep up with the change of the technology, which equates to the change of the threat that we need to engage upon. And so a quick example is I say that our munitions are getting smarter, meaning so we know when we fire a munition, it knows where it is in time and space on the battlefield. About 10 to 15 years ago, you would fire a munition, whether it's a mortar round or an artillery round, and you would kind of gauge it based off of the propellant that you were using to hit a spot. But now we fire it, it acquires a GPS satellite signal, and will go to that particular target.
How does it change? How has what you're describing changed the way the Army prepares to engage in warfare, and also the impact it has on men and women who are in the Army itself?
So exactly to
I know it's a complicated question, but I'm thinking about that.
No, yeah, but so the Army has to change to keep up with the threat, the pace of play, the pace of change, the speed of relevancy. And so the Army is undergoing what they call the Army Futures Command. We are in the process of standing that up. And that is only going to focus on modernizing the Army for the future.
Does it change the jobs in the Army?
Doesn't change the jobs in the Army, but it gives a focus on effort, a unity of effort. So modernization, the Futures Command, really is going to focus efforts all on what is that Army for the future. Today, one would argue or one would offer that there are different directorates and different organizations that are all going to the Army for the future, but now we're going to truncate that and compress it under one command, one flag, one individual, and their sole mission in life is to build a more lethal army faster for the future.
Terrorist threats have a big impact on what you guys do at Picatinny?
Terrorist threats do shape some of the decisions that we make in terms of investments for weapon systems. And by the way, once we get that weapon system to address that terrorist threat, sometimes it changes. And so that gets to the speed of change of information and maintaining relevancy on the weapon system.
There's a STEM component to this.
There is a
Science,
STEM
technology,
component.
engineering, and math.
There is
at
a STEM
Picatinny.
component.
Talk about it.
Absolutely. So STEM component, we have a very robust, a very small team that does Herculean efforts that reaches out to the kids, the children in the surrounding communities and as far away as New York. And what that does is it creates an environment to make these children or help these children to be productive citizens in society.
How do you do that?
How do you do that?
Give us an example of how you do it.
I'll give you an example. So last week we went to a school, the name escapes me, I think it was Boontown. Booton, I think that's not the name of the school, but it's something like that. And group of kids have interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have science and engineers that are on the arsenal because sponsoring the STEM efforts at the school, and oh, by the way, we have about 70 schools that we sponsor. It's not only about sponsorship for funding and getting them to places, but it's also about investment in the human capital, getting those scientists and engineers out of or off of the arsenal into the schools, talk about projects, bring them on to the arsenal and show real-life application of the science, technology, engineering, and math applications. And how does that apply to real-world environments?
My sources tell me you're also doing this with really little kids.
We're doing it with really little kids.
How young?
Actually, it's fantastic. It's as young as 5 years old. And so I was naive. I did not realize that there was a culture out there, a culture, I'll define it as a culture, of this STEM effort that really is out of Picatinny, and we really are touching those children at 5 years old. It really is creating a problem for them to solve. And so what we're doing, when we create a problem for a group of kids to solve, we trick them. Because what has to happen is they have to understand the problem, they have to work together, they have to develop teamwork. Somebody has to be a leader, and so someone might not have the skill set in terms of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but someone may have the ability to be a marketer, even at the age of 5, to talk about the problems that this particular group is solving to the adults. And so what we're doing, when I say tricking them, we are at a very early age teaching them how to be productive citizens in society. And if it pays off, because of that interaction with Picatinny, we are seeding or feeding the pipeline that they may be future workforce folks that come onto Picatinny. Not necessarily in the military, but can be defense civilians. We have about 6,500 folks on Picatinny. The bulk of them are civilians.
So, Brigadier General
Yeah.
Abramson, I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
You've been in this military life for how long?
28 years in July.
I would be
Long time.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you, as a student of leadership.
Yes.
I say this to a lot of folks who are watching.
Yeah.
We do actually do a radio program with some partners at AM 970 Radio.
Yes.
Called the Leadership Hour, and I ask folks who are real leaders the most significant lesson that they have learned about leadership. And given your extraordinary leadership roles in the military, I have to ask you, number one lesson you've learned about leadership is?
You have to be yourself. No matter where you are, always integrity, right? They always talk about integrity, but one of the things that I've learned is I have to be myself. So if I try to be somebody that I am not, so there can be a Patton, and there can be a McChrystal, and there can be a General Shinseki, and there can be a General Milley, and what I do is I take some of
General
those—
Colin Powell.
Oh, General Colin Powell, and I can take nuggets of knowledge of their leadership, but I can't be them. I have to be myself and roll those into an Al Abramson personality and be the leader who I am. Because if I try to be somebody different and I forget about it, the next day I am who I am.
I got to follow up.
Yeah.
You grew up in Brownsville.
Brownsville,
section of
Brooklyn. Brownsville section of
You
Brooklyn.
learn anything about leadership in Brownsville?
Oh, yes, I did.
I knew I'd get you.
Yes,
Come
I
on,
did.
right?
I sure did.
It helps.
It does help. It does help. An example? Well, I would say leadership within Brownsville, you have to build, I would say, partners.
Well said.
Yeah.
Coming from Brick City, Newark, New Jersey, I would say partnerships and relationships that help us survive and do what we got to do. Brigadier General Al Abramson, who is commanding General Picatinny Arsenal, I want to thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And most importantly, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Okay.
One-on-one right after this.
Okay.
Brownsville.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome, for the first time, Lindsey Davis, ABC News correspondent and the author of a compelling book called The World is Awake, a celebration of everyday blessings. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
How much you love what you do, both as a journalist and as an author?
I feel blessed that I get to tell stories every day. You know, that's what I consider myself, a storyteller. So I don't really make much of a delineation between whether I'm doing broadcast TV or my first children's book. I just like to talk to people, I like to write, and I like to tell stories.
Let's talk about your book. Inspired in part by a conversation, or at least a question asked, by your son, Aiden.
Yes, so he was just a little more than 2 years old. I was shocked.
4 now?
He's 4 now. We were driving along in the car, and he just out of nowhere says, "Mommy, does God open up the flowers?" And I was really pleasantly surprised by, one, his curiosity about God, and then two, his ability to make this connection between God and nature. And so this was my attempt to kind of answer that question, not only for him, but for other young kids, for toddlers who are just trying to, you know, kind of explore and get a sense of, because there are a lot of questions about, you know, God and nature and the world around them and everything that they're seeing. It's for the first time. And so life is still very new to them. And that's another thing, you know, when I was first reading books to him, you know, from newborn every night, I was thinking, you know, maybe I'm going to write a children's book, but I wasn't really sure.
Oh, you did think about it?
I was thinking about it, but I didn't know what I was going to write about. And so then I kind of just, it was just kind of in the back of my mind. But then when he asked this question, I thought, there it is. And he really kind of planted the seed then. And ever since then, I just have been thinking about being a parent and having this young person who has given me these renewed eyes. Because I think as adults, we just get jaded. We kind of have these blinders on, and we just go through life, right? And you stop seeing the rainbows and paying attention to the sunset and the bunny rabbits and getting excited by these things. And so when you have that little person kind of tugging at your shirt, holding onto your hand, saying, "Mommy, Mommy, look at this," then after a while, it's contagious, right? And so the adult, I start saying to Aiden, "Hey, buddy, look at that," you know? And so it's really been fun for me to kind of just get excited about life and really pay attention to the everyday blessings.
You know, Lindsey, since you're interesting, we were talking about children. Our daughter is turning 8 in the fall of 2018, Olivia, and she's constantly asking questions, clearly the ones I don't know the answers to.
We never know.
but they do make you think. And so if you were to say, I hate asking this, but I always like to do it this way.
Sure.
If you were to say what the primary message, dare I say, the theme of this book is, how would you concisely describe it?
I would say it is to celebrate the everyday blessings. It is to pay attention, to look and be aware. You know, people often talk about there's a difference between listening and hearing, right? And so I think that that's what it is. We see these things, but really pay attention to them. And, you know, as you're talking about, you know, with your daughter, my son would ask me questions a lot of times about God. And so, you know, I'd say, well, he'd say, "Well, where is he?" And I said, "Well, he's all around us. You know, he's in the sky." I'd say, "Yes, he's in the sky." So then, you know, fast forward a few weeks, we're about to get on an airplane. He says, "We're going to go in the sky. We're going to see God." You know, and so I think that they have all these questions, as you said, that we don't really know the answers to. And so this was my way of kind of just trying to say, you know, children are able to relate to the tangible things. And so, you know, of course, we have a lot of books about, you know, Joseph, Jonah and the whale, and Daniel in the lion's den, and David and Goliath, and all that kind of stuff. Right. But I think that children, they're too young at a certain point to really kind of understand, say in this particular case, like God, you know, and so what's God's hand in those particular stories? But this was a way of meeting children where they are to say, look at the butterfly, look at the bumblebee, look at the rainbow. These are all the creations around you, and let's appreciate it.
Sorry for interrupting. It's not clearly just for kids. It's for us as well.
No, I think that what I have discovered as, you know, a parent, and we're the readers up until a certain point, right? Now at this point, I guess your daughter, she can read to you.
Yeah.
But until we get there, you want to be kind of entertained by the books too. And you know, I'm always, so I work for ABC, which is owned by Disney, and so we go and watch a lot of those movies. And I always find that there are those kind of two themes, right? There's the one messaging for the young kids that are watching the cartoons, and then there's the kind of loftier message that the adults can kind of pick up. And I hope that that's the case in this book. At least that's what I was trying to do. In that parents who are reading the books to kids, they're going to remember, yeah, I used to pay attention to these things. It's like a reminder. Let's look with those renewed eyes that our kids have.
You know, some of the classics, they have value. Let's just say they're not particularly diverse in terms of the characters in those books. You made sure that happened.
Well, you know, as a mother of an African-American son, we certainly have all the diverse books of, you know, as far as children's faces and animals and letters and numbers and that kind of a thing. But it is important at a certain point for our children to find themselves in books, because if they stop finding themselves in books, they're going to stop looking to books to find themselves. And so initially I was looking and not really finding a lot of diversity in the books, and I was just thinking kind of like anecdotally at first, like, boy, there aren't a lot of these books out there. So then I kind of put my reporter hat back on and did a little bit of research and found out that more than 90% of the protagonists in children's books are white.
That's right.
And meanwhile, if you look at the Census Bureau statistics, that's not reflective of our children. You know, half of the kids in this country are not white. And so there was an essay that I found that I think says it so well. And it was called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors.
Mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors.
Yes. And so the concept is pretty simple, that you need to have mirrors in children's books so that kids are able to see a reflection of themselves in the book. Windows, so they're able to peer into perhaps an unfamiliar world. And then if those windows are really effective, then they're able to become sliding glass doors and transport them then into that world. And so it's so important. You know, a lot of people say, okay, well, you know, if you have brown kids, then it's important to see brown children. If you have white children, then it's important to have for them to see white children in the book. And that's so not true. We don't need to limit it there. People, children especially, need to see diversity at an early age, especially as our world is becoming more colorful, and we need to be more about inclusivity. So it's people will say often that, you know, kids don't see color, and that is not true.
No, it is not. How they see it is different.
Right. They don't assign a value to color. And that, I think, is what people are trying to say. That's right. But if you start them at an early age and they're just noticing all the variety, right? then they're not going to be so surprised. And so, because often it's what we don't know that we are fearful of or find as different, right? And so that's what was also important to me. You know, having a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old, that he just feels like, oh, okay, there's one of this, there's one of that, and we're all just kids.
No biggie.
Right.
Can I promote the book?
Let's do it.
The World is Awake, a celebration of everyday blessings, written by Lindsey Davis. And by the way, illustrated by Lucy Fleming. Thank you so much for your work at ABC to represent our profession so well, and also for this book.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
And you're a Jersey girl.
Jersey, born and raised, Morristown, New Jersey, South Jersey.
You didn't say Morristown, right?
That's right, Morristown with an E, right by Philadelphia.
Thanks so much. We'll be right back, right after this. Thanks.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to welcome Jill Kaplan, president of New York and New Jersey United Airlines. How's everything going at United?
It's great. It's great.
Isn't the industry, the aviation industry, changing every day?
Every day. Every day. It is it's in this, I think, like so many industries. I came from the media industry. I spent no time prior to coming to United 7 months ago in aviation other than being a customer. And so the, I think, disruptive element that all industries are going through is really, I mean, from my standpoint, that's exciting.
How'd you get the gig?
It's a really funny story. United was a client of mine when I was in the media industry, and I interviewed our CEO, Oscar Munoz, and then I asked him to come to an editorial board, and he talked about this job. And this role, which is a brand new role that United really felt was critically important in reinvesting in the community in a way that we had been, frankly, when we were Continental Airlines and New York's hometown airline. And it coincided with getting a call from an outside recruiter. And I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. But in that board, when Oscar was speaking about the role and the opportunity and the commitment to the community and the entrepreneurial spirit of wanting to do things differently, it really was, it was one of those things my kids said, Mommy, why wouldn't you do it? And I said, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Let's do this because we do know United well. United's one of the underwriters of what we do at the Caucus Educational Corporation, but we are one of many, many not-for-profit organizations that I don't even want to say invest in. You are invested in what they are doing. I believe it's $2 million in New York, New Jersey region, and 8 across the nation.
Correct.
Talk about what that means.
Sure, sure. It's in our soul. It is in our soul. It's in our DNA. It is something that we are fully, completely dedicated to, not just from a monetary standpoint, which certainly, we're very proud to be able to be a deeper part of the communities, but it's something that our employees are really hungry and thirsty to be more and more active and involved in. And so the ability to go, what I say, deeper and wider and be focused in a way that I think is critically important, because one of the things that I felt as a young kid growing up that was really beneficial are those pipeline opportunities. And so it means that we are looking and we have partnered, and it was a rigorous process, and there are an incredible wealth of extraordinary nonprofit organizations that are doing tremendous work.
And you can't always say yes.
You can't always say yes, and the folks that we partner with Year Up and the Urban League and the Food Bank of New Jersey, what really, I think, struck us, impressed us, it was the alignment to their commitment of helping youth be able to educate and to be able to create areas of opportunity through workforce development programs. And these are direct in market. They are touching the citizens of the community. They are right there helping to educate on everything from soft skills of us having conversations to preparing resumes to being able to provide, set skills that will give them a platform to success.
Job readiness is a huge piece of this.
Huge. And I feel, I've always philosophically felt that when you get to a certain point in your life, giving back is an obligation. As I mentioned before, I wouldn't be here unless it wasn't from the largesse of others who invested their time, their energy in me as a young person who, was, trying to find their way and trying to figure out what it is, like so many kids.
But you mentioned the Community Food Bank in New Jersey. We actually just had the CEO on recently. It was a great conversation. But they have a training initiative where they are preparing, and I guess it's a 15-week program, if I'm not mistaken, team?
Yeah.
The food service training program.
Exactly.
That is huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
And you're committed to that. That is just an example.
Yes, and actually, no, I'm happy that you brought that up, because that example had a direct correlation where we have a huge catering facility where we are employing...
Over at Newark Airport.
Correct, employing thousands of individuals. And the pipeline of talent in which, there's a host, I mean, the hospitality industry, we were talking about the Jersey Shore, there's so many different areas of opportunity within the food service business that we felt it was very aligned, and we really respected their work, we appreciated their work, we liked their thinking, and we liked the heart and soul, along with all the organizations that we've partnered with.
We know the Urban League very well. They have an extraordinary history. They go back a long way. Talk about making a difference real quick on why the Urban League.
The Urban League, I would say, just really impressed us in kind of the direct to market, right? Being truly physically, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually embedded within the community. And that access, that immediate access point for people to be able to come in, and also the alignment to Newark 2020, we felt was a really nice, in terms of wanting to be able to bring residents, Newark residents, skill sets and help train them, develop so that they have a pipeline.
Stay on that. Hire Newark. Help me again.
Newark 2020.
Newark 2020. Hire by Live Newark Initiative, right?
Yes.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Why are you bullish on Newark?
Oh my gosh, I think it's tremendous. There is something I'm not from Newark, but it is to me a city that has A, grown tremendously, B, has all, I would say, the pillars: phenomenal education, affordable housing, culture, corporations that are moving in it. There are people that are coming home, as I like to say. It's like a homecoming. And where we are today with Amazon, I think is absolutely a testament to all the tremendous work. And I am a full believer in the fact that this will just be a pipeline to other great things that are going to go on.
Jill Kaplan, president of New York, New Jersey, United Airlines. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
All
the
the
best.
you. Great.
Check
Thank
you out
you.
next time on One on One.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One on One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Summit Medical Group, Rowan University, New Jersey Sharing Network, the law firm of Gibbons PC, TD Bank, Suez, and by Kessler Foundation. Promotional support provided by Commerce Magazine and by Observer New Jersey Politics. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One on One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
I could feel my lungs fill with oxygen, and I got my life back.
The Sharing Network means to me hope, life, and everything.
The Sharing Network was a lifeline to me when I really needed it.
We are an organ procurement organization.
The core purpose of the New Jersey Sharing Network is to save and enhance lives.
To honor those who gave.
Pay tribute to those who received.
Offer hope to those who continue to wait.
And remember the lives lost while waiting.
For the gift of life.